at this point, you've done 70 novels.
Yeah, 30 kids, and it's coming up. It'll be coming up to 50 novel adult.
It's
novel.
amazing. So I've been focused on the the adults. I didn't know you had a children's thing until I just quickly wanted to do a little research before we talk, because I feel like I've known you for so long, but I had no idea that you had the children's ones. So I'm going to get those for my kids and all that stuff, because it seems like what a cool thing to be doing.
Well, what happened was, and I'm sure when you do, same for yourself, when you do, a presentation, there's going to be guys come up with their kids, young boys. And because of the type of language and descriptions in the books, they're not suitable for a certain age, certain for me. And it was two young kids said, why don't you do books for boys? And I never thought of that concept. And I had a word with my publisher at the time, and they went, oh, well, you're an SAS guy, you don't need to be around kids. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what do you mean by that? And so sat there thinking about it. And then there was a big drive for books for boys, because predominantly boys read less than girls.
It's tough to find them something that's good, that's going to interest them, because you're competing now with all these digital distractions. So it's tough.
Exactly. So again, I started them with the idea of being a young boy audience, but girls, I think, because girls are quite lucky, they can read action books, flowery books. Boys have got to have something that is masculine to a certain degree, whether it's sport, military, or, hunting. So they went from strength to strength. And I get more satisfaction out of going to a school now. And when I meet a young boy, maybe from 14, 15, 16, and they've never read a book or can't read, and this is in our schooling system, it just sends me with dread and saddens me. And I think I owe it to the system to put something back in there to encourage these kids into reading, because we both know you can be as techie as you want. If you can't read when you leave school, you don't have a cat and hell's chance of surviving.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think, whether it be if you're a sportsman or, a role model, in whatever your background you have, is try and encourage children to read. And again, I think in some cases, publishing can be quite snooty. And certainly with my publishers, there's writers there who will not go to the lower ends of society, the schools there, because, they don't want to mix with them, or they're a different class system. They're the kids that you need to be going in and targeting. And I'll tell you what, they relate to you. And they ask questions that an adult wants to know, but won't ask. Yeah. And I've had letters from guys now in their 30s who have said, I can remember when you spoke to me, and I'm reading this, this section of books that maybe I don't care if it's not mine. I'm like, that's fine, but you're reading.
That's great.
And, and then both you and I, unbeknown to us, are probably great recruitment tools for the military, because you get a young kid at 16 and reads that, he's like, I want a piece of that. And joins.
It worked on me. All the books I was reading growing up, they all had protagonists with backgrounds I wanted in real life one day. There was the Tom Clancy and Nelson DeMille and AJ Quinnell and Stephen Hunter and Mark Olden, all these guys who had typically at that time Vietnam experience. That's what the protagonists had in the 80s. And so it worked on me for sure. So I'm definitely aware of that as I'm writing. But doing the children's book or the young adult, I guess, type of books or something, it's something that interests me at some point in the future, just because of what you just said about capturing those them early on, passing on some lessons, maybe a little history, that love of reading, all those things that are so important for a richer, fuller life as you move forward, rather than just this instant gratification of a video game and getting a point and hearing a beep and getting a buzz on your electronic device. So in the future, that's something, as I take a breath here and look at the road ahead, that's something that I'll be looking at very closely.
And also, I mean, this is, like I say, a selfish reason. When you ask the question, why does an adult pick up a book, whether he's at the airport, train station, or whatever, and usually there's an association with a name. Now, if you've captured a young boy at 14 and he's read, say, a series of your books, when he comes in and sees your name in adult books, that's the book you'll be picking off.
Oh, yeah.
And it extends your life life expectancy in terms of
right.
writing.
Well, there's that part too.
Yes.
Yeah, James Patterson has done that quite successfully as well.
Yeah, he followed me. By the way,
after? Did he do the young adult children's after you? Interesting. I was going to look at the dates actually when we got off this, but I'm glad that's interesting. That's one of the questions a child would have asked, and I wasn't going to ask. I was going to research it myself. Interesting. And were you always a reader growing up? Did you always have this? Did you always know you would write eventually, or were you just a reader?
No. It was just a reader. And my father used to read a lot, and he would read all, it was always military, whether it be history or, fictional novels. And I would ask, can I read it? And he'd be like, no, it's not for you. I mean, the one that sticks out is The Devil's Guard.
Oh, yeah.
And that I was
have it
just
right over
lost.
Here. It's right. I can see it right here. All my books are on this side. My old office, they used to be behind me, but we're in a rental now. So they're all on this wall, and I can see it right there. Devil's Guard.
And I was just lost in that. And I just thought, it was probably one of the books that certainly pointed me that I wanted a bit of action, from that side. And because we weren't a wealthy family, and back in those days, in the 60s, you only had 3 stations on your TV. It was black and white. And my old man always had a book in his hand. My mum, again, she didn't want myself and my brother reading those type of books, but she wanted us to read. And even back then, they knew the importance of reading. And I don't think they were too bothered about, what was going on with history, geography, or whatever. They wanted us to work, but reading was the first thing, to make sure you could read.
Very similar to how I grew up, in that my mom was a librarian, still is, grew up with this love of reading, this love of books, surrounded by books. And it was just a natural thing that we did. It wasn't like, hey, put something else down, put the device down, because there weren't devices back then. And now it's time to read. It was just as normal as going outside to play or having dinner or whatever else. It was reading. That was just a natural part of growing up. And I think we've lost that with all these distractions.